YouTube, welcome to Draco Ray Gaming. Today we're going to be talking about how to fix the colors in Caldera and Warzone in general, even Vanguard. Warzone in general and Call of Duties lately have a very hazy, foggy kind of view and feel to them, and there's definitely ways you can fix that with in-game settings as well as NVIDIA filters. So as usual, no BS, no fluff. Here we go. All right, here we are inside Warzone, Vanguard Royale, all the new stuff that's been coming out. So as you can see, my colors probably don't look like they normally do in the game. You know, I've actually set some filters. Let's start with the in-game options and settings. Let's go over to the graphics and display. So with display mode, you do have a, make sure you don't have dynamic resolution turned on either, because it will adjust your resolution on the fly. I never run VSync or anything like that, but right here, there is a brightness option. Make sure your brightness option is somewhere friendly. I would recommend like 40 to 50, depending on your monitor and everything. That all depends on what your monitor setting is for brightness and everything like that too. But the in-game brightness is one of the biggest things that made a difference right off the bat. And then we want to go over to actual quality. The camera movement, I would definitely say put this on the lowest setting so you don't get a lot of jitter and tear and movement around in the screen. This helps a lot as well with visibility before we adjust the colors. So go in here and make sure you check out your field of view and camera movement settings, because that's going to have a lot to do with that as well. There's also these world motion blur, weapon motion blur, all that kind of stuff with the filmic strength, the film grain. It makes it very grainy looking. You can see here on the right hand side, the filmic strength also makes it very grainy looking or blurry depending on what you're using, as well as those motion blurs. They really caused issues with the actual clarity of the gameplay when you're moving around. So once you got that set and you're done with the in-game settings, you want to move over to NVIDIA game filters. You can make sure this overlay is enabled in GeForce Experience. Once you launch the game, go into game filters here, you push Alt and Z, then you go into the filters, and so you have a couple different, you have 3 different profiles, and I can show you from scratch. You can see on mine I have a sharpen, a details, and if you expand these, you can jump into more type of settings like that. So if you're starting off with a fresh profile, you're going to add a filter. I highly recommend brightness and contrast. I also recommend details, and I would say sharpen is a good one. Watercolor, let's see, split screen, sharpen X, paint file, film night mode, letterbox, depth of field, colorblind color, possibly color. Actually, let's get rid of color. You see how that changed it drastically? Let's just stick to sharpen, details, brightness, and contrast. So brightness and contrast are one of the first ones you're really going to want to check out here, especially with, and let's go actually to the previous menu so you can, let's get out of here, let's go back to where you can see the character. There's what I recommend when you're tuning, and you go back into brightness and contrast, and you can really you can see how we're adjusting the exposure. Exposure can make a huge difference. I kind of run like 10 or 11. Then your contrast, now you can really make it foggy like that, or you can really darken up some of those corners and shadows. Now you have to be careful with the shadows, obviously, if you want to like be able to see different dark colored skins like my character here, or the rose skin, and the highlights. And so you can see the highlights are the whiter parts, and it's really bringing out how much brighter those white areas are, where the contrast kind of works on the darker areas as well as the shadows. And so once you get it to right where you kind of want it, I kind of run somewhere in these ranges, then I would recommend moving over to details and sharpness. Let's go to sharpen. So the film grain, I really don't like a whole lot of film grain. Like I usually run like 10 or 0. The intensity of it all, you can see in the sand, if I go to 0 to 2%, you see the sand actually gets really blurry, and then if you go up higher, you can actually see a lot of detail in the sand and things like that. So I run about like, I don't know, 60, 65. These are all just suggestions depending on your monitor and graphic settings, right? And sharpen can really determine how grainy it is too. You can see here's a lot smoother, and this kind of blooms open and gets a lot more detail. So it depends on how much sharpen you kind of want to run as well. But these are the 3 settings I definitely recommend you start messing with in the NVIDIA filters after you set the in-game settings. I hope this video helped you out and pointed you in the right direction about how to fix your brightness, the clarity and motion of your game, as well as the details. I'm Draco Ray Gaming, and I'll see you next time.